Park. Good afternoon. Jason Benetti along with you. Steve Stone will join me shortly. Well, the Sox with 76 wins last year certainly want to build on that and improve in the regular season coming up. And the good news is, although spring training wins can't be redeemed for regular season wins, the Sox have their best record and their first winning record in spring training in the Cactus League since 2004. They've got 15 victories thus far in March. And as I welcome in Steve Stone, part of the reason for that, partner, is the offense.
They've been hitting the ball out of the park at an alarming rate. 48 home runs this spring, and it doesn't sound all that great until you look at what they've done before. And you'll see that this is the most home runs they've hit since they started keeping records. That was back in 2006. And they've spread the wealth. 20 different Sox players have hit the ball out of the ballpark. Jose Abreu has hit a couple of bombs. And if this is the case, things are going to be much better than last year offensively. There's an illustration of what we're talking about. Number one this year in the major leagues and hitting the ball out of the ballpark wasn't the case. Last year, they were 26th in spring training. Oh, spring training doesn't mean anything. There is a lot more thunder in this lineup.
Well, and that's good news. You know, as a former pitcher, that is good news for the pitching staff for the Sox, including the guy we're going to see today.
Jose Quintana last year went 9-10. Yet his ERA was .336. They just couldn't score any runs for him, and unfortunately, he threw the ball exceptionally well all year long without a whole lot to show for it. That's not going to be the case this year. This guy has great stuff. He always goes into the 7th or 8th inning. There you look at the lack of support last year. In all of his losses, you can tell why he lost them. Pretty much having to pitch shutouts each and every time. That's not going to happen because Frazier, who hit a home run yesterday, is driving the ball all over the ballpark, as is Lowry, as is a lot of the new additions. Deanna Navarro, another one. You'll see him today. It's been a great spring. I've enjoyed working with you. I've also enjoyed the fact that the Sox look awfully good.
They certainly do. They'll board a plane for San Diego coming up shortly, but first business to do in Goodyear. Sox and Reds getting ready to pop this afternoon. Sox are slugging .501 this spring, and Robin Ventura presents this starting lineup. J.B. Shuck in center, Tyler Saladino at second base today. Todd Frazier is at third, Garcia, Ishikawa, and Sands. Those two, Ishikawa and Sands, battling for that final roster spot. Navarro, Hawkins, and Tim Anderson, former first-round pick.
And let's take a look at the defense and how they're going to line up behind Josh Smith. It's Peraza, Hamilton, and Duran in the outfield with Suarez, Cozart, who's back in the lineup after having some physical problems this spring, along with Phillips and Votto, Tucker Barnhart behind the plate, and the aforementioned Josh Smith on the hill. Last year 0-4 with the Reds. His ERA was up there. He's 28 years old, battling to once again get a shot at the big club. He spent a little time with the Reds last year, and as you can see, it wasn't all that successful. So the umpires for the game today: Joe Bourne behind the plate and on the bases, Todd Tishner, Gabe Morales, Chris Siegel. And on this beautiful day, a little chilly here in Arizona, we're ready for baseball.
Why don't we go ahead
take
and
it
play?
away.
Thank you.
Yes.
Steve Stone. First pitch from Josh Smith to J.B. Shuck is strike one.
You mentioned one of the most interesting of all stats for J.B. Shuck this spring, and that was?
Well, if you look at his numbers, you got 46 at-bats, 1 walk, no strikeouts.
So, in fact, if he does go down on strikes, you will have cursed him in this at-bat?
There is no way there's any fault of anyone talking about anything in baseball. 1-2 on Shuck, who has made the team. Robin Ventura has said J.B. Shuck's the type of guy that he wants to take with the big club as the Sox winnow down those final couple of roster spots. Shuck stays alive.
One of the big factors is that coming off the bench, getting rare at-bats, he still makes good contact against some of the tougher right-handers around. Plus, he's got good speed. He can play all 3 outfield positions. Today, we see him in center field. But he's got a lot of versatility, and I think the Sox really like him.
Smith on 1-2. And Shuck hits this one well. Duran is back at the warning track for out number 1. On the roster, currently, the Sox have 29 guys left in Major League camp after a few roster moves today. The Sox have officially purchased the contract of Jimmy Rollins, so he's going to be with the club, and we'll talk to Dan Hayes about this a little later. Robin Ventura has said he's going to be a starting shortstop today. Scott Carroll, the relief pitcher, was optioned to Charlotte, and then Jacob Turner outrighted to Charlotte, 2 right-handed pitchers.
And you would certainly caution Scott Carroll to rent, because as has been his custom the last couple of years, he seems to wend his way back to Chicago a number of times during the season because he can pick up a lot of innings, and they're good innings out of the bullpen.
Saladino vaults this one on the infield. And Zach Cozart squeezes out number 2. Don Cooper was talking about that very thing. We'll get into it as the bullpen comes into play in this game. But Don Cooper was asked, hey, what do you think of the long men in this bullpen? You don't have one. And he said, look, we got guys that can go 3. We got guys that can go 2. So we're going to put it together and be all right, as Todd Frazier gets a huge round of applause here in Goodyear.
He also has some guys in the starting rotation that will go consistently deep into the game, and that takes a lot of pressure off a long reliever. They've got some great arms out there. I think it's going to be a good, solid bullpen. Nate Jones is having just a terrific spring. Don Cooper certainly liking what he's seen of that pen, and we've seen the bullpen very strong in our games.
Duke Robertson basically untouched this spring as well, and you mentioned Nate Jones coming back from injury.
Matt Albers having a very good spring.
Ball and a strike on the former Cincinnati Red, Todd Frazier. He won the team's Good Guy Award last year.
You can understand that, because he came over here and immediately people started gravitating toward him. And a lot of folks say you just want to hear what he has to say on a daily basis. So he's facing one of the great pitchers to ever come out of Lipscomb University. That in Josh Smith, excuse me.
Jake was pretty good back in his day, too.
Well, yeah, he didn't have the beard that Josh has, though.
Inside on Frazier, says Bourne, the plate umpire.
Todd hit a home run in yesterday's game, backing Chris Sale, who threw the ball brilliantly, giving up 6 hits and 1 run in his 5 1/3. And that gave Todd 3 home runs, 11 driven in this spring.
11 hits his last 13 games. Down the line it goes, and Duran is in position. for out number 3. So Frazier a hit in 11 of 13, doesn't get one here, and the Reds will bat in a scoreless draw, bottom 1. It's a good year, and here's the starting lineup for Cincinnati. Billy Hamilton, the speedster, leads it off. This is a full lineup for the Reds today. Peraza, Votto, Brandon Phillips, the veteran, then Suarez, Duvall, Cozart back from injury, Tucker Barnhart, the dangerous catcher, and Juan Duran in the 9 positions. Tony, the Sox defense.
This is how they'll line up behind Jose Quintana, left to right, Jerry Sands, J.B. Shuck, and Avisario Garcia, who's having a great spring, along with Todd Frazier, Tim Anderson, Tyler Saladino, Travis Ishikawa battling for that final spot on the roster. And behind the plate, Deoner Navarro. There you look at Jose Quintana, 1-0, and this his 4th A game. Thrown the ball pretty well. He's pretty happy with his walk to strikeout ratio this spring, and it's usually pretty stout.
First pitch, a strike to Billy Hamilton. What do you expect in terms of pitch number today from Quintana?
Sale went 5 1/3, and I assume that he got over 80 pitches. I don't think they want to see Jose go to 100.
Frazier against his former teammate, up to the challenge, 1 down.
Last time we played Cincinnati, the same thing happened in the same situation. First, defensive alignment. Frazier, as you would expect, played Hamilton in. He's a great bunter. And a little chopper, and he was thrown out. Brian Price, the skipper of the Reds, looking on. Next to him, Jim Riggleman, former manager of a number of teams.
San Diego, the Cubs, the Washington Nationals most recently, who spent some time as the AAA manager in Louisville for the Reds before coming up as the bench coach, and he was also in the AA team for a season with Pensacola.
Jimmy's a good baseball man, and if you have that kind of experience, you're usually going to be able to find a job as a bench coach any number of places. And there's a look at Riggs.
Peraza to right, Avi Garcia is there for out number 2.
The advantage today on a ball sliced to right field, unlike most days, the wind is blowing out here. That's not unusual, but because it's blowing out toward center field, you slice it down the line. Instead of moving away from a charging right fielder, it'll actually blow back in toward him, and there you see the wind, and in the background, the airplane graveyard. So if you need any parts from a 737, let me know. I've got a guy who's got a guy.
So I've got to go through a guy to get to your guy?
Yes. You just don't think you can get to him, do you? Being here for 10 games and all. 12 games is the limit to get to my guy.
I am in the aileron market right now.
Well, there you go. There's ailerons till the cows come home.
2 down for Joey Votto, who's got 3 homers to his name this spring. Ball and a strike. Well, we talked about it when we saw the Reds 4 days ago. He is the cornerstone of this franchise at this point at age 31.
And he chokes up on the bat, makes remarkable contact. Went one whole year, I know, maybe longer than that, without hitting a pop-up, which is somewhat amazing at any level, at any time. But Votto was able to do it. And when he's not in the lineup, a pitcher breathes a sigh of relief because he's a tough out.
Quintana misses outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Votto. And certainly hitting was not really the issue for the Reds last year as much as the pitching was, with an ERA that was 26th in the league at 4.33. That said, they only slugged .394 as a group. That was 24th in Major League Baseball.
Votto's .535 on base percentage the second half. If it didn't lead the league, he was probably in the top 2.
Votto over short, and he drops in a single on 3 and 2.
Perfect example of what Joey Votto does. With 2 strikes, a pitcher's pitch low and away, he shortens up his stroke. The infield shifted. He just pops it into left center field. See, choked up probably an extra inch or so, and there's the shift. And Votto, as he has done so often, stops at 1-2-3 first.
He gives a chance to Brandon Phillips, the 34-year-old second baseman. Nothing in 1. Well, it's the Sox final game here in Arizona. There are 2 exhibitions remaining as well. So an off day tomorrow. Team will travel to San Diego and play exhibitions Friday and Saturday before heading off to Oakland for that opening series of the year. Opening day is looming.
Joey Votto doesn't run near as much as he did at one point. However, if you fall asleep on him, he will take off. He swiped 11 bases last year, usually choosing to steal them when they're very important to the outcome of the baseball game. Only thrown out 3 times. That's an excellent percentage. But I would doubt this close to the season if you're going to see him take off here and take the bat out of Phillips' hands.
Check over there on Votto, who in his career has stolen 59 major league bases. 69 of them in the minors before coming through Cincinnati, where he made his debut in 2007. Phillips pokes this one down the right field line. Garcia has it and holds Votto at third. Phillips cruises into second with his 9th double.
There's no doubt the Reds are not going to be a good team this year, but that combination of Votto and Phillips in the middle is going to be tough to deal with for anybody. He just reaches out a lot like Votto did, gave up the power for a lot of plate coverage and dumped it into right field.
So 2 in scoring position off the Phillips double for Eugenio Suarez, the 24-year-old who was traded in the Alfredo Simon deal before last season. And Alfredo has made it back to the Reds.
He is what would be termed a very big right-hander.
Downstairs, ball and a strike on Suarez.
Suarez having a good solid spring. You're going to see some gaudy numbers around the Cactus League, as you always do.
Especially as compared to the Grapefruit League, where the air is much thicker. There's more rain, so the infields are going to be wetter.
And a lot softer all the way around, especially the dirt. You get to the dirt here where we haven't had maybe 2 drops of rain all spring, and the dirt in the infield is pretty much like concrete.
1 and 2. is high. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Suarez.
Last few years of Quintana's career, he's gotten a lot of mileage off that face-high fastball. That's one of the adjustments he's made as he's gotten a little bit older, a little more experience. Don Cooper talked to him about the value of that after throwing some cutters down and in, some slow curveballs. That face-high fastball gets a lot of hitters.
Why is that?
Because you're changing eye levels and because it looks very good to hitters. They just can't catch up with it. It's called a pitch higher than high. It's not a strike, but it's tantalizing, and they go get it. Their best bolt is either popping it up, fouling it back, but more times than not, they just swing through it.
It's ball 4 high, so bases loaded. 2 down for Duvall. On that subject, I think fans at home watching the way we do at home with that camera from center field, you're saying, why does that high fastball look so good? Can't you tell out of his hand that it's up and out of the zone?
You really can't. Again, if it's, and I'm not talking about way out of the zone. I'm not talking about bill of the cap high. I'm talking about
shoulders below.
I'm talking about actually face high. Because you just don't really know if it's going to be called a strike. It's too close to take, but too high to do anything with.
Bases loaded for Duvall, and that one's up.
Duvall's had a good spring overall, driven in 17 runs. That's in 20 games. So that's been pretty impressive.
Bounded foul by Duvall. 1 ball, 1 strike. 20 out of 61 so far this spring, with Votto at third, Phillips at second, and Suarez at first.
In Duvall's major league career last year, he hit a home run, a feat tied by many.
In his major league debut.
But that was for the Giants, and he hit it against these Reds, so they promptly went and acquired him because they didn't want to see that again.
You can't beat him, make him join you.
And that's what he did. That one ripped down the line, but well foul. After the fastball, he goes to the off-speed breaking ball. That one rolls inside, and the only thing Duvall could do with it, if he made contact at all, was yank it foul.
Now, in the first inning for his career, Jose Quintana has allowed a .291 batting average for the opposition. That's the second best batting average of any inning against him in his career.
There's a couple of different reasons for that, and some pitchers adapt better than others, because try as they might, and Roger Bossert is as good a groundskeeper as anybody in baseball, you try to make the bullpen mound identical to the mound that you have on the field. You try. It's almost impossible to make it identical, although Roger tries. So when a pitcher goes out there, never having thrown any pitches except for his 8, 10, whatever warm-ups he does at the beginning of the game, it's always a different place.
High fastball, and that'll do it for the Reds, who strand them loaded. Votto, Phillips, Suarez, marooned by Quintana. Scoreless after 1. Ballpark Pass is available now, and for just $59, fans can attend all 16 Monday through Friday home games in April and May, beginning with April 18th against the Angels. Visit whitesox.com/ballparkpass for more information or to order yours today. See some good teams there, too. The Red Sox will be in town, the Houston Astros, Kansas City. They made some noise last year, as I recall.
Just a little. And by the way, just to follow up one more idea why pitchers have some problems in the first inning. The pitcher is the only man who does not warm up where he's going to do his work. Everybody else warms up at their position. A pitcher warms up in the bullpen mounds, and that makes it, to some guys, a little more difficult.
Avi Garcia takes a ball low. 18 out of 51 this spring for Avi. 4 homers and a big number, 16 RBIs for him. Breaking ball for a strike from Smith. So you warm up in the bull. Why not? Why not let the pitchers just come out to the mound half an hour before the game?
Well, half an hour would be a bit much because most guys don't use that much. You don't want him sitting down for a long period of time before the first pitch. But I understand, and I'm sure that's been talked about, although maybe not nearly enough. But if you're a reliever, you have to adjust to the mound right away. Otherwise, you're not going to be in the major leagues too long. But for starting pitchers, it's a little different. Why that is? Well, there's a few different reasons, and everybody has a different feeling when they go out there for that first inning. You are, however, facing hitters 1, 2, and 3 as a guarantee, and if anybody gets on, well, then you've got the cleanup hitter, so it becomes a little more difficult in the first.
Garcia tried to check his swing and strike 3, so 1 away in the Sox second.
And here's a man battling for that one spot that appears to be left. And that man, Travis Ishikawa, battling against Jerry Sands, who's coming up right behind him. Both have had very nice springs. Ishikawa, the one advantage would be that he does swing the bat from the left side.
Well, there's some power in the bat, too. Ishikawa, for his career in the majors, 23 homers, 944 at-bats. Got 49 doubles as well. Broken bat, Squibb. And the third baseman, Suarez, has out number 2.
This is your first spring in Arizona, having had some of the others in Florida. What have you gleaned from this particular first spring?
So the other day I was standing in the clubhouse when a couple of the players had been told that they were being optioned or reassigned or whatever it is.
That's pretty tough.
And I had seen it before at the AAA level, but to watch everyone milling around, essentially going about their business, whatever they do normally, while there's another guy right next to them cleaning out his locker and putting the stuff in the cart to push it across to the minor league side, there's no good way to see that and feel right about it, especially when the guys that we're talking about have had good springs.
And a lot of them have had major league experience. So that's the human side of the game that a lot of people don't see as they see the bright lights and the big salaries and everything else. They don't realize that there's a lot of players that will bounce back and forth between the major leagues and the minor leagues, some never really getting a shot at the major leagues. In fact, most. And that's a very tough part of the game.
It's this really melancholy moment in a clubhouse where 5 stalls down, somebody could be playing soccer with the other guy. I mean, there are these pockets of sad in the clubhouse. And you're saying, well, you know, how tough can it be? They're Major League Baseball players, and they're getting paid even to go to AAA, et cetera, et cetera. The difference between AAA and the majors is substantial, both in terms of stature and monetarily.
And ballparks and travel and everything else that goes into it. The major leagues is where everybody aspires to the reality is that most guys never get a minute of play in the major leagues.
Fastball down. Sands goes after it, and a 1-2-3 inning for Josh Smith, who has yet to allow a Sox base runner as we go to the bottom of the second. Fans opening days Friday, April 8th at 3:10 p.m. against the Cleveland Indians. All fans ages 21 and over get a 2016 White Sox magnetic schedule presented by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner and official beer of your Chicago White Sox. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME. The magnetic schedule furnished by Steve Stone's magnetic personality.
Yes.
Your humility once again rings through the booth.
That's my middle name, Stephen H. Stone.
Your middle name, we found out this spring training, is a rather moving target. Cozart takes strike one. Ball and a strike on Zach Cozart, the shortstop.
Cincinnati happy that he is back and healthy. Last year, limited to just 53 games. He's had a few physical problems, but if he gets a chance to play, he's pretty good.
Including a knee injury. As he rolls this to Tim Anderson, who's got out number one. A chance for Tim Anderson today to play an entire Major League spring training game right at the end of the year. He will start the season in the minors.
I think that battle for shortstop was one of the most intriguing this spring because both guys played well. And Jimmy Rollins will get the start. However, Tyler Saladino is going to play a whole lot as Rollins comes to the realization in his 17th year in the major leagues that he won't be playing every day.
Well, and we get a chance to see Tyler Saladino's versatility today. He's playing second base in the field. He also is a possibility at third, as we saw last year. Frazier manning that position now, but with a day off, or move Frazier to first and let Abreu DH at some point, whatever it might be, Saladino gives you that flexibility.
That's one of the big reasons why Tyler secured a spot, that and the fact that he had a terrific spring. But if you can move guys around and, you know, different positions, obviously shortstop, second base, a big adjustment, and we'll tell you just exactly why as this ball thrown back in.
Tucker Barnhart, a one-out single.
Biggest difference for shortstop, second baseman is the shortstop has the double play in front of him, so he can see the runner coming. You have the ability to time your throw, the ability to avoid the runner sliding in. The second baseman has that runner coming, and he can't see him. And to a lot of guys, that's really uncomfortable. You've got to get used to it. And footwork is essential if you're going to avoid getting taken out.
as Duran stands in against Quintana with 3 hits for the Reds so far as we play into the second. Yeah, the other thing about it is playing second base instead of shortstop. Tyler Saladino mentioned to me earlier in spring training, a couple of weeks ago, he said, I get by far the best view of the ball off the bat from shortstop rather than second base. He said at third, you're basically blind. I mean, depending on which side the hitter is coming from.
I talked to a lot of very good third basemen. They told me that they read the angle of the bat through the strike zone.
Oh.
Don't necessarily see where the pitch is. Look at the angle of the bat. That's how they get their first step quickness. And that is what differentiates the great third baseman from the third baseman.
Fouled away by Duran, who's 7 out of 25 this spring with a couple of homers.
It was one of my most entertaining pre-games today. I'd like to thank you for introducing me to that new invention. YouTube, I guess you called it. Yeah, I can now get music, as I understand, for my favorite price, which is free. But you stuck it on Mama's Got a Squeeze Box, the only thing I can listen to now, which will be really exciting for me.
The problem is Daddy still never sleeps at night.
It's true.
Inside 3-1. I mean, it's seriously, this is actually true, folks. Steve did not know about YouTube.
Well, I knew there was a YouTube, but I didn't know exactly how to implement it in my pregame routine. So I thank you for that.
And as everyone watching who has used YouTube knows, it is really it's a multi-step process. To right field, Avi Garcia.
I think
number 2, you type in YouTube and then you're there.
I think I'm going to invent something called Pandora. What do you think? Where you can also get music.
You know, it's an interesting thought, but I feel like I've heard of it before. I do.
I should check into the patents.
And I can tell you that if you just type in that word into the Google,
that'll be it.
Well, you'll be able to see what's called Pandora.
So they do have it already.
Yeah, it's just like going to the Dewey Decimal System and all that.
Okay, take that off the list.
Uh-huh. 2 down for Billy Hamilton. Low 1-0 from Quintana.
We're probably going to see at least one bunt from Hamilton as he tries to sharpen up that aspect of his game. He can both drag it and push it, depending on who is pitching. A push bunt against a left-hander is probably the best way to do it.
Right back to the mound. Quintana flares it to Ishikawa, and the inning comes to an end. Might be able to watch that half inning on YouTube at some point. No score after 2. Back to Goodyear, and we are pleased to be joined by the general manager of the White Sox, Rick Hahn. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, guys.
It's a busy time of the year for you right now. How do you go about deciding on those final couple of spots on the roster?
You know, it was an interesting year this year. We had some pretty viable options for that last few spots, both in the bullpen as well as at the position player side. So there were some tough conversations, but in the end, we spent a fair amount of time talking to Robin and his staff about different scenarios or different player types that they're going to feel that they need to win a close ball game in the end. Do you feel like you need that extra arm? Do you feel like you need a pinch hitter in this situation, or a guy who can steal you a bag? And Robin and the guys spent a fair amount of time going through those different scenarios and ultimately gave us a preference for the player type, and that sort of takes care of itself then.
Well, because you did a whole lot of work in the offseason, you had the added advantage of having a whole lot of talent to choose from this year, which is a little different than the last few years.
You know, it's been nice. It's been a fun spring down here. It's been a positive environment in terms of the new players we brought in integrating and producing quickly for us. But it's also been nice in seeing some of our young players, guys like Matt Davidson and Carlos Sanchez and Tyler Saladino, really establish themselves this spring as viable guys who can help us should their role need to expand over the course of the season.
Are you having any problems getting Todd Frazier to come out of his shell?
Yeah, him and Laurie have really been shrinking violets, which is unfortunate, but we'll work on it. We'll get them out.
When you look at this team right now, what are you happiest with after this spring training in Arizona?
You know, the funny thing is the first and most important thing I think for any club during spring training is just get through healthy. So in about 7.5 innings or so, then I'm going to feel real good about this spring, assuming Herm Schneider's name doesn't show up on my caller ID at any point today. But after that, I think we've all been thrilled with the attitude of the coaches as well as the players in terms of their approach, the professionalism, the high level of energy we've seen coming from that clubhouse and that dugout in between the lines each day. Obviously, the offense was a big concern for us last year, and one of the main priorities that we wanted to address this offseason. I think you've seen over the course of the games here this spring how well the new lineup is integrated together. We've obviously had a very powerful spring, I think hitting something like 48 home runs versus 22 or so last spring. It's not really going to matter until we start doing it in the regular season, but it's certainly a positive sign as we head into Oakland next week.
You revamped the shortstop position, and obviously it's worked very well. Both guys had great springs. You also revamped the catching. And Navarro and Avila both bring different tools to the party, but it looks like the catching is in pretty good hands this year.
You know, we wanted to mix it up a little bit back there. We wanted to try something a little bit different that at the same time wouldn't compromise what we were able to accomplish defensively and bringing the most out of our pitchers, but allowed us to, again, address some of our offensive concerns. And in Alex and Diner, we got two guys who have not only played on playoff teams and caught Cy Young winners before and brought the most out of both front end and back end starters, but also provide us with a little different look offensively, and we think something that's going to be a nice shot in the arm for us.
Tim Anderson at the plate right now. He's one of the young guys that you talked about. What have you seen from the young players? Who stood out to you this spring?
You know, Timmy's did have a real nice spring. This for a guy like that who has yet to be the AAA, a large part of it is him just getting used to the big league speed of the game and being comfortable. You know, he was basically in Jimmy Rollins' back pocket for most of the spring, and I think that's going to serve him well over the course of his career.
Well, 1-2-3 inning for the Sox. Rick Hahn, thank you very much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Sox General Manager Rick Hahn here in Goodyear. We're scoreless through 2.5. A lot of fire games back in my day. As a high school student, drive down to Soldier Field when they were playing there and
Pretty exciting.
tailgate a little bit, bring the grill. Quintana to Peraza, who fouls the ball away. Jose Peraza involved in that 3-team trade that got Todd Frazier to the Sox. Dodgers to Reds for Peraza, who earlier in his career was involved in another 3-team trade that had Matt Latos as a part of it with the Braves and Marlins. Garcia coming forward and has no play. Peraza has hit number 4 today for the Reds. Always good to catch up with Rick Hahn, the general manager for the Sox, with some insightful things to say about how he built this roster.
He had a very good winter. He had a good winter last year, it just didn't work out. This winter, he brought in some veteran players with some pop. And you add 51 home runs to your starting lineup in Lowry and Frazier, and then are able to bring the experience of Jimmy Rollins in. Consider it a job well done, and I think it's going to hold this team very well most of this year.
And that's to say nothing of a guy like Austin Jackson, who's also involved as a center fielder for the Sox, and we'll see how that rotation shakes out throughout the season in the outfield. But that's another spot to watch. We've been talking a lot about that last roster spot, but as you know, come mid-April, the roster could change again because of need.
And we've also talked about more power than last year, which wouldn't be difficult because it was a woeful power year. We haven't talked a lot about the new players, the configuration of the defense and how that's going to be, and it's going to be substantially better than last year because just as bad as the power department and run scored situation, the defense last year was very difficult for the Sox. That doesn't help the pitchers all that much. They will be helped this year by some guys who can catch the baseball consistently.
Throw to first. Peraza was off, and here's a test of the rundown ability of the Sox. Good job by Robin to work on that a couple of days ago.
Nice pickoff move by Jose Quintana. It didn't hurt that Peraza was taking off. And then he was hung out to dry. So when you work on this enough, it's not all that difficult to complete it. And Ishikawa did a nice job because normally you're taught when you throw, you follow your throw. But in this case, with the pitcher having to be the guy backing up, Travis thought it was better served to make the throw and then hang back at first base, and he made the tag. One 3-6-3 to all of you scoring at home.
And for those of you that don't, that is pitcher, first base, shortstop, first base. Or do you use different numbers than the rest of America as you keep score?
I do have a different numbering system with different colors. So,
a couple prime numbers on that list?
Oh, I know you took a lot of heat for prime numbers. Had you come to me ahead of time, I would have explained to you all of the prime numbers, how you arrive at that.
Let's talk about this prime number.
Okay.
Joey Votto, the active career leader by a wide margin in Major League Baseball in on-base percentage.
I think it's pretty interesting to see Joey Votto, then Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, all sluggers when you find them at the top of the leaderboard is on-base percentage.
Votto again on 3-2. That's his second full count pitch single of the game.
Years ago, most on-base percentage leaders were the guys who hit at the top of the order, took a lot of walks, got hit occasionally, bunted their way on. But nowadays, not the case.
So Brandon Phillips with a runner on and one down. Votto, by the way, if you look at all-time career leaders in on-base percentage, he is currently 14th all-time in baseball in on-base percentage with that .423 number. Some big names in the top 10. Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, 1 and 2. The other Billy Hamilton, 4th.
The long ago Billy Hamilton.
Yes.
I believe he was right around 1905. Is that Billy Hamilton?
Well, I'm going to leave that to you. That was your era.
Oh, geez, another age shot.
1888 to 1901. The other Billy Hamilton.
Oh, okay, well.
We told you, Billy Hamilton from the past is actually more of a stolen base guy than the current Billy Hamilton, at least over the course of 14 seasons in Major League Baseball.
Lifetime .344 hitter. And Chris Kanka points out that he scored more runs than games he played in.
Phillips yanks this one to left. Jerry Sands is back, and it is fair and gone. 2-run home run, Brandon Phillips. He snuck it in, and the Reds have the first runs.
Just the second home run of the spring for Brandon Phillips. So between Votto and Phillips, 4 hits. A double and home run included. That's a rolling breaking ball, and because it's not breaking sharply and is rolling, Phillips followed it all the way and hit it a long way with the wind blowing out. Fans on the berm have a souvenir.
Well, we told you the other day, and it's well documented this offseason, Brandon Phillips, the Reds tried to trade him a couple times. He invoked his no-trade clause. Still here. And likely a major part of the middle of the order, at least for a portion of this season.
I think what the Reds had in mind was that they view this as a rebuilding year. Anytime you trade your closer, Aroldis Chapman, you're probably thinking about that. They wanted to get something for Chapman, who, by the way, will serve a 30-day suspension at the start of the season. And for Chapman, he accepted 30 days because had it been 46 games or more, he would have had his free agency pushed back. So he accepted the 30 games, and Yankees will be without him. But from the Reds standpoint, they're trying to unload some of their older players, some of their high-salaried players, and try to build from within with a farm system that lately hasn't been all they had hoped it would be.
Just 64 wins last year for Cincinnati and Brian Price, who, as a pitching guy himself, is not well stocked in the pitching department to try to bridge that gap between 500 and where they were last year.
And it doesn't help that his home field, the Great American Ballpark, is a launching pad.
Injuries to Homer Bailey out with Tommy John surgery, likely May 1st or later. On his return, they just announced that Raisel Iglesias will be the opening day starter for the Reds and have recently signed Ross Ohlendorf to a 1-year deal. Up and out from Quintana, and that's 4 in a row reaching for Cincinnati. Join Major League Baseball New Era and the 30 clubs as we celebrate opening day. Make sure to wear your favorite cap on April 4th and share it on social using hashtag #CapsOn for a chance to win prizes. Social media earlier today, I know you're not a Snapchat guy, but and neither am I. Evidently on Snapchat earlier today, Carson Fulmer and Tyler Danish, both minor leaguers now for the Sox, were doing their own edition of carpool karaoke on Snapchat.
Ironic, isn't it, on the day when we were just introduced to that by Michelle Godwin, who seems to have become a huge fan
I don't think crew carpool karaoke would go terribly well with our group of.
Have to be a big car.
Our group of ill-pitched folk. 2 strikes on Duvall.
Not to mention lyrically challenged.
Pitch number 60 coming. Shirts say stats don't lie. What do you think, Stoney? Stats lie?
Well, I saw 2 of the words. You can pretty much imply whatever for that third. Stats don't lie would be one of the things that it could say. It would be, however, wrong, but, you know, don't break it to the youngster yet. It would just crush him.
1-2 on Duvall. On the ground, Anderson can't cleanly field it. He was trying to grab it on the go, and 2 on for the Reds.
That's a classic example of thinking about 2 before you get 1. He was probably thinking, should I take it or flip it to get the first out? Instead, he couldn't secure the baseball. And as it dribbles away, Quintana still in a jam.
So Anderson with the error. And Cozart, his counterpart, comes up with 2 on and 1 out. 2-run homer in the inning for Brandon Phillips for the Reds. The Sox have Quintana going in this game, then Latos in the first exhibition at San Diego. John Danks in the second exhibition at San Diego. Then the rotation is basically firmed up for where you want it for the regular season to start in Oakland, with Sale on opening day against Sonny Gray.
And then there'll be a workout on Sunday before the opening game. Sonny Gray's a good one. Unfortunately for Oakland, it's been Sonny Gray and the Pips. They haven't had a lot of stability behind Sonny.
So you're saying that the Pips weren't exactly effective?
Well, they've been.
I think Gladys felt differently.
they've been rotating a few of those guys.
Nothing like rotating Pips to ruin your rotation. Sale versus Gray coming up opening day Monday. Hawk and Stoney will have that broadcast from Oco Coliseum.
And there you look at almost identical innings last year. Of course, many more strikeouts for Chris. A better ERA for Sonny Gray. It's a great place to pitch, as is the Oakland Coliseum.
Already 65 pitches into the third. Check swing, and he did go around. Strike 3 on Cozart. Big punch out for Quintana of the Red shortstop.
We'll take a look from the side, and you'll see on this curveball in the dirt, he went too far, and a very good block by Navarro. Dropping to his knees, trying not to catch the baseball, making sure that he blocked it, which he did, and a big second out.
So Tucker Barnhart, who is from the Indianapolis area, from Brownsburg High School, where he played high school ball with Drew Storen, the newest Toronto Blue Jay in the bullpen, or one of the newest Blue Jays in the pen.
Storen, by the way, got beat out of the closer role, which was somewhat surprising because it was thought by many that he would be the guy to nail it down, but they certainly liked Osuna. He's a youngster who throws very hard, and he reassumes that role that he actually starred in last year. He was very good out of their pen.
Boy, Drew Storen's career as a closer has been ill-fated. You know, they have the Papelbon situation.
Yeah.
Before that, Soriano comes in. He has that odd game in the playoffs where Pete Kozma and the Cardinals beat him. And then he gets shipped away to Toronto, where he doesn't win the closer role this year.
First time we saw Barnhart, we were amazed at just how strong his arm is. He was a backup catcher then, probably will be some of that now, but there are not too many guys around, starters or backups or anything else, that throw better than Tucker Barnhart.
The Reds are pretty well stocked. I mean, two good young catchers on the same roster, with Mesoraco at 27, Barnhart at 25.
Not to mention a kid by the name of Tyler Stevenson, who was a former #1 pick, rated the 4th prospect in their organization. I remember him out of high school and was told by many you can't draft a catcher that high in the draft. But draft him, they did. He's got a chance to be a pretty good one before it's over. Again, very young. That's a whole lot of work. Helped by the pickoff, not particularly helped by the bobbled ground ball, but those things happen. And again, being spring training, all it's going to do is shorten the outing.
Inside, ball 4. Third walk of the day for Quintana. And Duran to bat with the bases loaded, and a meeting coming at the mound for the Sox and Don Cooper.
This is pretty unusual to see Jose Quintana walking a couple in the same inning. That doesn't happen very much, as he usually has exceptional control.
Quick meeting for Coop, who was with Matt Latos earlier today, throwing a side session, trying to get Latos ready for that start in San Diego. After a couple of outings that Don Cooper hoped would be better. He said the innings are where I want them to be, but the results just aren't as yet.
Don would certainly love to see things pick up for him, and the happiest guy to see spring training go by the boards is Matt Latos, as that ERA has been above 12.
Strike 1 to Duran, who lined out to right his first time. On Latos, Cooper said earlier today, he said, the fastball command has been better. It's just a matter of we want him to spot the curveball for strikes. We want him to be able to throw that pitch for a strike, and it has not happened so far this spring enough.
Well, he's going to have, and he's got a good curveball. He's going to have a much better curveball when the season starts. We get away from Arizona. But it breaks so sharply that more times than not, it's a great wipeout pitch, but if you're trying to throw it for strikes, that's a problem.
One and two from Quintana.
Holt was originally in the starting lineup. He gave way to Juan Duran. Tyler Holt, who was sent down, not playing in, I believe, the final game for the Reds.
2-2 as the pitches mount for Quintana. Reds will open with the Phillies in regular season play.
A couple of Pennsylvania teams they're going to look at.
Quintana drops in a breaking ball for strike 3 and retires the side. The Reds have stranded them loaded for the second time today, but lead by 2. Now that's more of a way to eat an ice cream cone. Did you see what happened with the kid at the Hawks game about a week ago? He became, this kid, what was he, like 10 years old? He became an internet sensation in the Chicago area because he was just going to town on an ice cream cone.
And that's all it took?
That's all it took. You end up on YouTube for just about anything, although...
You mean that new invention?
Yeah. Right after the printing press and the cotton gin comes YouTube. We're going to get you one. That's what the line looks like. We can sneak down there between half innings.
There's nothing that quenches the appetite quite like Mr. Softy in the middle of the ball game.
That was your nickname.
Folks in line.
Wasn't it? When you were playing?
No, that's how I threw the baseball.
Oh.
There it is.
Yeah.
Gotta get a little hot fudge on that, though.
Even when it's warm out like this, you do that?
It's not actually all that warm today, as you well know. Going to get your jacket before the game. I was kind of surprised. I mean, I thought you were this hardy guy, and running for your jacket with one stiff breeze that blew in.
Hardy? You're comparing me to beef stew at this point? Sox have yet to have a base runner. Shuck's bid to short left is finished off by Cozart. One away.
10 in a row retired. So Smith is having quite an afternoon.
Josh Smith out of Lipscomb University in Nashville. Spent time at AAA last year and a little bit of time with the Reds. Hook for strike one to Saladino, who popped out to Cozart last time.
Yeah, Smith has thrown a very good curveball considering it's in Arizona. Because that one is breaking sharply and he's thrown it for strikes.
For those folks who have not been with us throughout the spring in our 10 games, what's the physics behind the curveball not working here in Arizona?
You really don't have a whole lot of humidity to help grab the seams, and that's one of the reasons why. That and more altitude than you would think in what they call the Valley of the Sun. And that's one of the reasons why the ball travels as far as it does. But with the dry air, it's really difficult. The dry air, and your fingers do get dried out in between pitches. Makes it a little tougher to grip the baseball. But it has been the case with guys who depend on curves and sliders. They're not going to throw as well down here as they will throw when they head north.
By the way, you said it's a little chilly here today. Our friends in Chicago are saying
it's relative, yes.
Yeah, it's 66.
Well,
right now.
That's compared to what it has been. That's a cold spell.
It's Arctic.
Oh.
2-2 on Saladino. Sox second baseman today, 26-year-old. Some Sox fans made the trip. And a good cowboy hat. You don't really see cowboy hats in the stands too much. It's a good look. We should get you one.
That's a working man's cowboy hat.
As opposed to
the ceremonial,
lazy...
yes, the ceremonial cowboy hat worn at some of the drinking establishments around.
The malingering cowboy hat?
The stylish, more stylish than that particular one. There's another stylish hat.
That's the straw hat department.
It is.
Those are good for the sun, though, down here. Those are very practical. Saladino to left field. First runner, first hit, first run, all in one. The Sox are on the board.
That a no-doubter. All Peraza could do was look up. That one long gone, the fifth of the spring. And that's 13 driven in by Tyler Saladino, who breaks the spell and puts the Sox on the board, cutting the lead in half. That's a hanging curveball. I knew as soon as we applauded his curveball, that he would throw one that came up there like a piñata, only to be crushed into left field.
Right out of the blanket in the berm.
That's a blast.
Ball one to Frazier, who flied out to right in the first. And again, we know about Tyler Saladino's defense. I mean, there's never been any question about the way he can play defense, but the offense has been thunderous and consistent this spring.
I think the competition at shortstop helped both players. Nine homers and 26 runs driven in combined between Jimmy Rollins and Tyler Saladino.
We're going to hear from Dan Hayes later on, CSN insider, but he was reporting along with a couple of other media members that when they talked to Jimmy Rollins earlier today, he referred to Saladino as Imansky after the Tom Imansky skills videos because he's just so solid in the field.
And for some of you who don't know about Tommy Mansky, that's understandable.
Frazier hits this ball hard, but right at Peraza in left, 2 down. Well, what you would do is you'd pull it up on YouTube.
You could do that. And Tommy Mansky did make some instructional videos that actually helped a lot of young players understand the fundamentals of the game. Of course, we jest about the videos of Imansky. I know you have his entire catalog.
VHS and beta.
Or the Imansky papers, as they're known.
2 down for Garcia, who bats this one foul on the ground. Well, for Avi Garcia, 52 spring training at bats and 8 strikeouts.
That's much improved over what he was doing last year, where he drifted, everything went out on the front foot, his hands came forward, very susceptible to the off-speed pitches. And this year, changing his hand position, he said he was able to stay back longer, able to get a much better look at some of the breaking pitches, and he hasn't expanded his strike zone. Now, we don't really know if he's going to carry that forward into the season, but if he does, it really lengthens the lineup as far as a run producer is concerned, because there'll be some thunder in the middle of this lineup if he can do it.
Grounds a breaking ball foul, 0-2 it remains with Abreu, Frazier, Brett Lawrie helping, Melky Cabrera, who's looked very good this spring, especially later in the spring.
And if you factor Avi into that, you got yourself a pretty strong offense.
Swing and a miss for Garcia, his second strikeout of the day, but Tyler Saladino gets the Sox in the score column against Smith and the Reds. 2-1 your score thanks to the solo blast from the San Diego Kid. that's us, Stoney, and our crew.
And nobody presses down the cough button better than you, pal.
I'm learning. You taught me good. Our crew has been nonstop at spring training, doing Sox, doing Cubs games, day after day after day. A good chunk of our crew is going to go to Vegas tomorrow with the Cubs. So to Jim Angio and everybody here, thank you all for putting your blood, sweat, and tears into this spring training. I know it's been difficult. They don't get days off, and they are fantastic and focused and do a wonderful job. Bottom four starts with a long ball from Billy Hamilton, who's peeling off for third, and he's in there with a triple.
Hamilton really didn't think about stopping at second base, not with that speed. And this ball hit very hard. Straightaway center field is 410 out there. Chuck not playing him very deep, as you would expect, because after all, it is Billy Hamilton, but he is off to the races here. Cuts the bases nicely, and an easy three-base hit, necessitating the infield in at all four positions.
Two of those positions have changed. Joey DeMichael has come in to play second, and we talked about Tyler Saladino's versatility. He is into third base for Todd Frazier. So Saladino playing second and third. DeMichael into second base. Robin Ventura is currently on the please keep all my players healthy going into the regular season plan.
It looks at this point like Todd Frazier is going to emerge from Arizona unscathed, which is a good thing with what he means to this ball club.
Hard by Peraza, 1-2. Now, one of the regulars, the closer for the Sox, is getting loose already. David Robertson, who's had a mighty fine spring, likely to come in next, it seems.
Pretty good pitch here, if you do trust Tanner Navarro to block it, is a breaking ball in the dirt.
Was out of the dirt, still low, and fly deep to right past Garcia for Peraza, and for the Reds it's back-to-back triples.
Right thought, the execution wasn't there as he got that breaking ball up and out over the plate. Peraza put a charge into it, just eluded Garcia in right field. There's that curveball. So Jose Peraza, the second of two triples to lead off this fourth inning.
His second triple of the spring. And now Joey Votto, who's singled twice over the shortstop position. The Sox still play him to pull on the infield despite two hits, and that speaks to, I would say, analytics and knowing tendencies rather than just saying, hey, twice today he's done X. They still believe that he's going to hit the ball on the ground on the infield, and what do you know, he hits through it anyway to the pull side. 4-1 Cincinnati.
For Joey Votto, with his third single of the day, he drives in his 9th run of the spring. And it would appear that that is going to be it for Jose Quintana.
Robin Ventura, a pat to his lefty, who we will see next in Oakland. 4-1 Cincinnati in the home fourth as Robertson comes in. You to join us at U.S. Cellular Field as the White Sox face the Minnesota Twins Saturday, May 7th. First 20,000 fans get a Chris Sale K-Counter bobblehead presented by Wintrust Community Banks. Visit whitesox.com to purchase your ticket today. It comes with the K-Counter. You can tally them all up and get to 274 or above.
David Robertson comes in the ball game. He has given up nothing this spring. That has been a characteristic of a lot of the Pensmen for the Sox. Left-handers don't have a hit against them. Right-handers not doing much better at .077. Longtime closer with the New York Yankees, coming over last year. And Robertson, the first part of the year was pretty close to unhittable.
Fouled away by Brandon Phillips, who's got a double and a 2-run homer to his credit this afternoon.
Robertson last year with 34 saves, appeared in 60 games.
Jerry Sands in left watches this ball end up foul. You look at usage numbers for Robertson. 2010, 64 games. 2011, 70 games. 2012, 65 games. 2013, 70 games. 63 2 years ago, and then 60 with the Sox last season.
Closers just won't work near as much as either setup men or seventh inning guys.
Anderson at short to Michael the turn, and a double play for the Sox infield. 6-4-3.
It's not unusual to see a lot of relievers. Let's take Brian Shaw with the Cleveland Indians, appearing anywhere from 75 on up games, but closers, they're going to get an inning of work every now and then in a non-save situation, but the managers like to save them. But we always say about closers, they'll always rust away before they wear away. That's why you got to get them some consistent use.
When do you think, because we see it so often, a closer will come in like a 5-0 game and give up 2-3 more because the focus isn't there. When do you think is the best time to get a closer work in a non-save situation?
I think he just wants work. It just depends on how long he's gone without pitching for a meaningful game. I don't think you want to see a closer sit around much more than 3 days. I think that's just about it for most pitching coaches and managers. They will tell you that. But as far as why they give up runs in non-save situations, the adrenaline just isn't there. They might be as focused, but that adrenaline of coming in to save a game for a guy who closes for a living, you can't duplicate it. It's not like you're going to go in and tell yourself, okay, I'm going to let it all go in this situation, 8 runs up or down, like I would when I'm coming in to nail one down with a 1-run lead and 2 on.
Shuck in center on the move, shading his eyes to make the catch. Reds get back-to-back triples and a Joey Votto RBI single. The lead is 4-1 after 4. Dan Hayes joins us next. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone, and Dan Hayes, CSN Insider, for the final time this spring. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of news today before camp broke there. Jimmy Rollins has been named the opening day starter. Obviously, that means he made the team. He said that was his biggest goal, but he was also kind of keeping an eye on being the opening day starter. And Robin Ventura announced it. It's not going to be 100% of the time. They're going to use Tyler Saladino. They really like the idea of keeping Jimmy Rollins fresh. They said they've seen some of that this spring, and we've seen it in his numbers. He has actually about 130 points higher OPS this year than he did last year in spring camp.
Jimmy Rollins, 37 years old on opening day, the oldest opening day's shortstop for the Sox since Luke Appling in 1949.
And he actually talked about that feeling of being fresh and taking advantage of it himself, and that he's more in tune with the idea now as he's older, that he's seen some benefits from it and kind of plans on good nutrition on those days off and taking care of himself so he can come back and be fresh the next day.
What about the bullpen situation, and along with Matt Latos in the starting rotation? What did you hear from Don Cooper about Latos today?
Yeah, Latos threw another bullpen session today, but the thing is that they are looking for more innings. They like the progress they've seen so far. The curveball, I'm sorry, the fastball command has gotten better. The slider has gotten better. Cooper said the split finger has become more of a put-away pitch for him, but now he needs to string some innings together, some good pitches together, and get deeper into games, because right now, obviously, with the 7-man bullpen, they're going with no long man. There's really no guy to come in and eat up 4 innings were he to have a 4-inning start again.
Well, they're going to be shielded from that at the top of the rotation. You would think certainly Sale and Quintana will go deep into each and every game. You would think that Carlos Rodon would also do as he did last year, especially last 8 starts, go deep into the game, and that makes the necessity for a long reliever not all that important. However, the back end, and John Danks has had a pretty good spring, so we hope that he goes deep into games, and then, of course, it's up to Latos and see what he does.
Yeah, Don Cooper talked about that front end of the rotation doing the heavy lifting, and they have stretched out their relievers. A lot of guys, probably 5 or 6 of the guys, have pitched multiple inning games so far. Dan Jennings has even gone 2 1/3 innings, so they're prepared for this. And again, if Chris Sale and Rodon and Quintana go 6.5, 7 innings to start, you're pretty good shape by the time your 4 and 5 roll around.
Dan Hayes joining us here in the booth, CSN Insider. Have you enjoyed your time at spring training so far this year, Dan Hayes?
I have, and I've been able to keep up on my streaming too. So
good. What are you watching pop culture wise?
Oh, House of Cards. That's the latest one, and a little bit of People versus O.J. Simpson, and finales next week.
How'd that work out, by the way?
Well, there's a spoiler alert. If viewers are out there, you might want to turn it down for a second, but I think he's going to be found innocent next week.
You know, the end of Titanic,
actually,
I've heard, is a cliffhanger, too.
Actually, not guilty.
Not guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty, correct.
Not so much never innocent, but not guilty.
1 down for the Sox here in the 5th. Ishikawa went after a high fastball, and Jerry Sands now to the plate. Dan, we were talking about that last roster spot as well, and it seems like Sands and Ishikawa are really in the running for that last bench position.
Absolutely, and you look at it, and Jerry Sands is out of options. I think that maybe gives him an advantage. I mean, it's all speculation until they announce it, but he can play first base, which is what they kind of need. Obviously, Travis Ishikawa would be the best first baseman in the team there. He's a really good defender. He's a left-handed bat. He's got some real upside there, but Jerry Sands out of options. Obviously, he's got a very good track record against left-handed pitching. I think he has an 846 OPS in his career against lefties. Can play outfield. We saw him at third base the other day, so they definitely feel comfortable moving him around a little bit too.
Well, Rick Hahn was just in here in the top of the 3rd, and he said a couple of times, he used the phrase type of player. And so the question is, what type of player do the Sox and Robin Ventura want heading north? We'll find out.
Exactly. And, I mean, both of them had good springs. You've seen Jerry Sands have some competitive at-bats here. Obviously, he's been around the majors a little bit. He just never quite has stuck. But they really like that approach against left-handed pitching.
Cozart at shortstop. And 2 away. Dan Hayes, CSN Insider, joins us. Thank you for stopping by, Dan.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
We'll see you coming up.
Yeah, sounds good.
Safe trip to San Diego and Oakland, and then home.
That's a plan.
Enjoy it. Dan Hayes, CSN Insider. You can follow him on Twitter at CSN Hayes. He will be reporting on the Sox all season long. Always great to see Dan Hayes. Sox have 1 hit, 1 run, and 1 base runner in this game thus far. That was a Tyler Saladino solo homer in the 4th.
Smith has been awfully good, changing speeds, throwing just about all the breaking pitches over the plate. Couple of hard hit balls, but not too many against him. And in things you hope don't happen late in the spring especially, Miller, the closer or erstwhile closer from the Yankees until Aroldis Chapman comes back, left a ball game after being struck on the right wrist.
Is that today?
That is, I believe, today.
There's Brennan Bernardino getting loose in the Reds bullpen.
And Andrew Miller, one of the great setup men around, can close on occasion. But fortunately, it was the right wrist. He is a left-handed reliever.
That looked like, until the Chapman stuff, and then this injury to Miller, and we'll see how serious it is, if it's serious at all, a very formidable bullpen this year for the Yankees.
Last year was awfully good as they rotated 3 guys. Adam Warren, who was their 7th inning guy, only to then be put into the starting rotation. He went to the Cubs. And now it leaves them with Betances and Miller. And when Chapman comes back, those are 3 guys who can get it up there in a hurry.
Two strikes on Courtney Hawkins after the walk by Deoner Navarro. 22-year-old DH today for the Sox. Hawkins 1 for 17 this spring. The only one, a solo homer. Breaking ball gets him here. And the 6th strikeout for Josh Smith. Lipscomb's finest has the Reds with a 4-1 lead halfway home.
Friday, the home stretch to the playoffs continues as the Blackhawks go head-to-head with the Jets and look to make up ground in the Central. Coverage starts at 6:30 with Chevy Blackhawks pregame live right here on CSN Chicago. And we hope that the suspension isn't all that long for Duncan Keith. That's a huge loss for the Blackhawks. So we'll have to see how that plays out as the Hawks head to the playoffs and hopefully get real hot. Jake Petrichka comes into the ball game on for the 9th time, so he's been a busy man. 1-0 ERA, 2 1/4. He's been asked to save 1 game, was not successful in that role. Left-handers not hitting him very well. Surprisingly, right-handers are. as he is the third of the Sox pitchers. Quintana, not a particularly good outing at 3+. 9 hits, 4 runs. David Robertson came on, got the double play and the fly ball to get out of the 4th inning. A nice job by David. And now it's on to Jake Petrichka.
Some of the bullpen numbers are quite gaudy for the Sox this spring training. Matt Albers, no runs in 6 2/3. Zach Duke, scoreless over 8 1/3. Nate Jones, 7 2/3 scoreless. And Robertson now building on 5 scoreless innings and 1 hit this spring. Last game we had, it was the Sox and the Rockies a couple of days ago at Talking Stick, and I was talking to Nate Jones after that game. His stuff has looked great anyway.
Yes, he is.
But he was facing the B minus team for the Rockies. And there were some young guys that just looked like, what am I doing?
Yeah, especially because they were inserted pretty much right before they had to go out and face Nate Jones, which is never easy for anybody, but especially for guys almost without exception never having swung at a pitch in the major leagues. And Duvall goes down on strikes. And there's Zach Duke, another guy having a very good spring.
It's a back-to-back situation for him. He threw yesterday in that final home game against the Rangers. We thought he'd been avoiding us. He was pitching in a lot of B games, and we had not seen much of Zach Duke this spring.
Yeah, for relievers especially, it's just innings and appearances. They don't really care where they get them or under what conditions, and so they go to the backfield. Sometimes they'll pitch in B games. Other times they'll pitch against some of the minor league guys. And they've all gotten their work in. That's the advantage of having a dual team facility where you have 14 actual fields, 1 major, and everybody gets a lot of work in.
Sox split their facility with the Dodgers at Camelback Ranch. Just as the Reds share this ballpark with the Cleveland Indians, and we've gotten 2 trips to Bucolic Goodyear this year.
Well, which is very good for you because you live in this area. Your palatial suite that you rent for the spring. Me, I have to employ, well, because the helicopter's in the shop, I have to drive Lord knows how long to get here.
And do you fly it when it is operable?
Yes.
Do you fly the helicopter, or does somebody do that for you?
I don't fly it myself because my hands and feet don't work together any longer.
Cozart goes down swinging. Back-to-back strikeouts for Petrichka.
And this is just, yeah, that's an example when the helicopter is in the shop. I'll occasionally fly that over. Long way to go, though. You know, you land it there and you got to walk like 1.5 miles to get to the park.
So it's not worth it at that point. You'd rather drive.
Yeah, it isn't that great because that rickshaw you almost ran over in Mesa, and that's what the crew uses. Very nice. I wonder why they've had such a long spring. You gotta love
nice
that.
wreath, Jim Angio.
A good shot. And our crew deserves better than that.
I don't know.
Not much better, but better.
Fouled away by Tucker Barnhart, who's 1 for 1, a single and a walk. Two down, bases clear for the Reds, who have scored in the 3rd and the 4th today. Inside from Petrichka. Ball 4. Join us for opening weekend at U.S. Cellular Field. Folks, first 20,000 fans Saturday, April 9th. Get a White Sox winter hat presented by Comcast Sportsnet. Visit whitesox.com to purchase your tickets today. Perfect for the Sox fan in Helsinki, Copenhagen, or wherever you might be.
Well, you did have a tweet the other day from a fellow, I believe, in Sweden that
Swedish tweet.
Use one of those. That was Rusty EpiPen, wasn't it?
It was. It was our old friend Rusty EpiPen from Stockholm.
I've got to get used to injecting you. Can we practice before the season starts in case you get a hold of some shellfish and swell up like a balloon?
I'm actually good. I think you'll rise to the occasion if it were to present itself. You know, you keep saying that. Fans are going to send us like calamari or paella in the mail just to test it out.
Well, no, I don't think they're going to send you. Send you barnacles maybe, but I doubt if they'd send you anything good.
Petrichka to Duran. Outside, says the plate umpire Bourne. I do appreciate your concern for my situation, though. Thank you.
Well, you know, it's
you're nothing if not generous with your time.
It's something you have to be aware of. And practice does, after all, make perfect.
Fastball for a strike, 2-2. Petrichka to Duran. Cincinnati, one more game in spring training. That'll be at Cleveland, but in this ballpark. And then they'll open up with the Phillies on the 4th.
Jake had a pretty good year last year. He was used in 62 games. His ERA 3.63. So overall, pretty strong, a 4-3 record. The 3.63 ERA. In our ballpark especially, that's excellent. Part of what appears to be a pretty strong bullpen as everybody is healthy. Just about everybody throwing the ball very well.
Only 18 walks, 52 innings last year, and he avoids the walk this time, coaxing a swing from Duran. Petrichka strikes out the side in the 5th. U.S. Cellular Field throughout the 2016 season for free T-shirt Thursday. First 10,000 fans at every White Sox regular season home game get a specially designed White Sox T-shirt. To purchase your free T-shirt Thursday tickets, visit whitesox.com.
A new pitcher coming in the ball game. And with Aroldis Chapman on to New York. The closer is going to be J.J. Hoover. This year, on for the 7th time in spring training. Hasn't given up anything yet. Has to save one game. Was not successful. .6'3", 240 pounds. He's out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
First pitch from Hoover, fouled away by Tim Anderson. J.J. Hoover out of Calhoun Community College in Tanner, Alabama. The same community college where Jorge Posada started his college career before ending up with the Yankees. He went to the school, as the story goes, sight unseen, and started his baseball career there, moving from Puerto Rico. Anderson to right with a leadoff single.
Posada wound up with a great career. He was a big member of some of those better Yankee teams. Hoover last year, excellent. Was not called upon to close because of the presence of Chapman, but he was 8-2. His ERA a touch below 3, and he appeared in 67 games. And the Reds are going to see if he can make that transition, which is not an easy one, from premier setup man to closer.
He wasn't even a closer in his minor league career. He only had 16 minor league saves. He was a starter coming up through the Braves organization until 2011 in Double-A.
And last year he saw his strikeouts for 9 innings drop from over 10 to just under 8. So now you would think, and there's a whole different philosophy with the setup man and a closer, and again, because you can set up doesn't mean you can close, as it does because you can close, it certainly means you can set up. But the Reds will see if Hoover can make that jump that not a whole lot of guys can do.
Is it mentality mostly, or stuff?
Well, it's both. I mean, you can have great stuff, and I've seen a lot of premier setup men, both right and left-handers, do just a great job when they're not the guy, because you have some margin for error. But when you become the guy and you're coming in outs 25, 6, and 7, the toughest outs to get in any ball game. And I've seen some guys absolutely wilt in that role. Some guys just get better. Mariano Rivera was a premier setup man before he became a closer. John Wetland, a premier setup man before he became a closer. But more times than not, you see those guys thrust into that role, not able to take command of it. We consider lockdown closers anybody from 85% and up in save situations.
You were telling me the other day that your Cy Young season, the bullpen overall only blew 1 save all year. Is that right?
The last game that I pitched was a blown save. Other than that, and we had not necessarily a bullpen by committee, but not one established closer. And they didn't blow a save all year long until the last game, which was absolutely remarkable. A testament really to that bullpen of Sammy Stewart, Tippy Martinez, and Tim Stoddard. Stoddard, a great basketball player, by the way, played on that North Carolina State team that won the NCAA. But they were really good.
3-2 on J.B. Shuck. Anderson a leadoff single. He is on the move, and Shuck hits the ball where the shortstop Cozart vacated. Hit and run to a tee for the Sox.
Robin with a little movement. That pulled Cozart over to the bag, leaving the left side vacated, and J.B. on a pitch away goes with it. Anderson had a great lead, got off to a very good jump. Barnhart was getting up to get ready to throw it, only to see contact.
That's the type of thing that J.B. Shuck does that ends up with him on the roster maybe ahead of someone else.
That and the fact that he runs very well and can play the 3 different outfield positions.
Saladino in the air, left center, and running catch couldn't be made by Peraza. Anderson scores. It's 4-2.
One way or the other, that's going to be a run batted in, the second of the day for Tyler. But we'll have to wait and see if it's an error, which you think it would be, or a base hit. Off the end of the bat. And it is a base hit. As Christmas comes early here in Goodyear.
14 now, as you said, for Saladino, driven in.
Big spring. Big spring.
Joey DeMichael bunting in the spot previously occupied by Frazier. Well, first and second, nobody out. Avi Garcia on deck. Seems like a nice bunt position.
Yeah. You want to make sure that you bunt it to third base, keep it away from the pitcher in case the third baseman is hanging back. And although teams won't show it here most likely, a great play is a pickoff play at second.
Why?
Because you find a lot of times that a base runner at second base will be so intent on getting a lead, not necessarily J.B. Shuck, who has some speed, but you use it with guys who don't have that kind of speed. They want to get the lead. They know a bunt is coming, and so as the pitcher starts to throw, the shortstop who holds his ground then will sneak in back of him, and it's one of the variations of the wheel play. And there's a number of different ones where the third baseman will come in. A lot of times third baseman hangs back. The pitcher will go to the third base line. He'll make the play himself. Sometimes the shortstop sprints over to second base only to see the second baseman using the pickoff play at second.
Inside to DeMichael, 2-2.
Once again, Brennan Bernardino.
Hoover low again, 3-2 on DeMichael, who was 0-2 in this count.
I think JJ probably wanted that. Joe Bourne said nope, a little low.
Avi Garcia looming on deck. DeMichael to first, and the spear by Votto. DeMichael is out by half a step. Nifty play by Joey Votto to steal a fourth hit from DeMichael. Runners do advance.
I'm very surprised he even looked at second base, but he felt he'd had some time. This is an outstanding play because normally this is a double. Votto, seeing no play at second base, gets it to Hoover, just an eyelash ahead of DeMichael. And so the tying runs in scoring position. Great play by Joey Votto. Caught it on the big hop and realizing that he had to go to first base. Darrell Boston thought he was safe.
Yeah, Debo had him safe.
Yeah.
On the ground at third. Suarez only play to first. Sox get a run. Shuck scores, and it's 4-3. Well, first and second, nobody out. You get a run like that, you'll take it.
And it's run batted in 17 for Avi Garcia. So that's going to be it for Hoover. As Brian Price comes out, he's going to make a change. So as the left-hander comes into the ball game and J.J. Hoover exits, we'll step out and be back after these messages. Monday, the Sox opened the 2016 season in Oakland with the birthday boy today, Chris Sale, leading the way against Sonny Gray and the A's. Coverage starts at 8:30 p.m. with White Sox pregame live, presented by the Kowalas family of dealerships. So we've got a new pitcher who comes in the ball game. He's warmed up a couple of times, Brennan Bernardino. There you look at what he did last year in the minor leagues. 4 hits and innings pitched, never really a great sign, but a lot of strikeouts, almost 8 per 9 innings.
Just his 3rd professional season on the horizon. He was with Billings in rookie ball 2 years ago, and the Dayton Dragons last season.
How were the Dragons overall?
The Dragons last year, well, we know the attendance was very good. They had like one of the longest sellout streaks in the country of any pro sports team. Snap throw to second, and out. Saladino straying too far from the bag. There's the arm on Tucker Barnhart, apprehending another opposing player. Sox are done in the inning, but Saladino drives in 1. It's 4-3. Time once again for America's fastest growing sensation, where we ask Steve Stone about his own career. Steve, how'd you do against Tony Perez, former Red?
First of all, I'm tired of us facing Cincinnati, because that was a big red machine time. And everybody you throw up there did very well against me, so I'm very bitter. I would ordinarily sit it out, but not this time. Tony Perez, look at that. 6 for 19 with 3 home runs and 10 driven in. Wow. He should have made the Hall of Fame. Wait a second. He did make the Hall of Fame.
In there.
I think everybody on that Reds team made the Hall of Fame, and most of them because of me.
You had a fantastic career. It just so happens we've seen Cincinnati a couple of times in the last 4 days.
I'm going to petition next spring to not play them at all. So Zach Duke comes in. He hasn't given up anything either. On for the 9th time.
Zach is used to facing Cincinnati for a good chunk of his beginning of his career. Came up through the Pirates organization as a starter.
He also went to Milwaukee, where he had a pretty good run and learned how to pitch out of the bullpen, which he told me was like a whole nother career for him. But he's found the spot. Situational left-handers can hang around a long time if they can throw strikes, and Zach can do that.
Trying to keep Billy Hamilton off the base path. He tripled and scored in the 4th, that 2-run inning for the Reds, to give them a then 4-1 lead that has been shrunk by 2 after the top half of this inning. Hamilton punches a curveball down the line, and Billy Hamilton's off to the races again, this time with a well-planted double down the line.
This one off the end of the bat, slicing down the line and staying fair. Billy can fly. Thinking about 2 bases. And he easily goes into second base.
Again, an on-base percentage below 300 last year for Billy Hamilton, but as the bunt gets put down by Peraza, Duke handles it fine. And 1 away. If Billy Hamilton consistently got on base, and I know that's the refrain from the Reds people, but if he did, what a weapon he'd be at the top of that lineup.
He just has to make some contact. If he can do that, he can beat out a lot of ground balls that most other guys haven't even thought about beating out.
Joey Votto at the infield in, looks at strike 1. Votto singled twice over the shortstop position his first 2 at bats, then sliced an RBI single through the right side as Navarro checks out third and Hamilton off strike 2.
Joey Votto with his 3 hits today, hitting a robust .429.
Through the left side, Joey Votto has done it every which way today. This bounder makes him 4 for 4, and it's a 5-3 lead.
Second run batted in, 10th of the spring. And that's why drawn-in infields put 50 points on hitters' batting averages, because no angle at all on the ground ball as Votto punches it through.
So it's up to Brandon Phillips as Duke allows his first run of the spring. Mentioned the Sox coming down to those final few decisions. Scott Carroll was optioned down to Charlotte, who, if you're looking at what he might do, he could be the long man type in the bullpen. And Rick Hahn even mentioned this before he came into the booth today. This was yesterday after a couple of the moves. He said, look, because of the lack of off day after the off day in Minnesota, there's 17 games in a row for Robin Ventura's team. In April, you may see the roster shift to add a pitcher depending on the bullpen being taxed the first few weeks as well.
It's really a schedule oddity. And an oddity because I can't remember ever seeing no off day on either side of the first home series. That doesn't happen very often, but after the 4 in Oakland, come home to open up against the Cleveland Indians at U.S. Cellular Field for 3 games, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then no off days. We head to Minnesota to see the Twins before that off day after their home opener.
Sox play every day from April 13th through May 1st.
That's pretty amazing. When you consider normal weather conditions early in the season and sometimes into the 3rd week of May in the East and the Midwest.
Who is it? It's Kansas City, I think. Somebody's playing 2 games in the first 5 days of the season. I think it's Kansas City.
Okay, we'll go with that.
With 1 out, 1-2 on Phillips, fouled off. There you see the first 4 series for the Sox, and the one gap is on April the 12th. That road trip spanning 7 days, 6 games.
And then the Tampa Bay series in Tampa Bay before coming home against the Angels. 4 games, Texas 3 games, on to Toronto for 3, and then Baltimore for 4. No off days.
Across the right side for Brandon Phillips. He has 3 hits today. And the Reds keep piling up the offense, especially from the top of the card.
Yeah, 3 and 4, especially in the batting order, going 7 for 8. Then a couple of hits for Hamilton, a couple of hits for Peraza. Not much doing after the first 4, however. Just 1 hit by Barnhart, that coming in the second. That's the only hit of the last 5 hitters, but they really haven't needed it to this point, leading this ball game 5-3.
So now Suarez, who's been quite patient today with 2 walks. Inside, ball and a strike.
Looked like a pretty good pitch. Normally hitters can't lay off that slider that comes seemingly across the plate only to bite inside.
Duke drops down and misses outside with a fastball. 2-1. It's almost as though he's got 3 separate arm angles he's shown in this outing today as Philippe Almont gets loose. The newly groomed Philippe Almont.
Most left-handers don't want to drop down too much on right-hand hitters.
Into center, another base hit, this time Suarez. Here comes Votto, and the Reds are on the board again, 6-3.
First hit of the day for Suarez. That's his 11th driven in this spring. And Zach tries to nail the outside corner at the knees, but Suarez goes down and gets it. So the key to hitting that pitch is and has always been, you've got to keep the left shoulder in if you're a right-hand hitter. Stay right down on it. Don't pull off the ball. If you do that, you're probably going to ground to the left side. But by keeping your head right down on the pitch and pretty much going right with it, you can rifle it back up the middle.
That brings up Schebler, who's pinch hitting for Duvall. Scott Schebler, who was also involved in the deal this offseason. Todd Frazier coming to the Sox. Dodgers and Reds also involved. Frazier got a little run today, but after a fly out to right, was substituted out by Robin Ventura. It'll be interesting to see how the Sox open. We're talking about the Sox, you would hope, getting off to a strong start, but the schedule is not favorable just in the fact that there are only 3 home games before April 17th. Tailing into right, and Avi Garcia is on it for out number 2. Was that mascot sleeping? Is that what we just saw?
It has been a tough spring for mascots. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's, well, not exactly.
Hello.
Good-looking mascot. Here at the Goodyear Ballpark, you got to love the visor.
It's an oddly shaped baseball, though. A little pointier than your average playing equipment. Pitching change for the Sox. Zach Duke to depart. Philippe Almont was loosening, and we will see the right-hander coming up after this. 6-3 Reds in the 6th.
March is
Philippe Aumont coming into the ball game on for the 8th time. Another one of the Pensmen who's given up nothing. The 4 walks in 6 2/3 is a bit troublesome, but when nobody's hitting you, it doesn't matter all that much. As he's trying to find a way to get out of this 6th inning. 3 different innings. Cincinnati has scored a pair. And they lead this one by a pair. No, they lead it by 3.
Well, some pairs are shaped like threes.
Yes. It's that wonderful eyesight that I have, which allows me to see the scoreboard from here. I know there is a scoreboard.
Well, this scoreboard is not the easiest get here in Goodyear. It's a little light on the eyes with the sun beaming down on it.
Let me put on my monocle.
You're Mr. Peanut now?
Yes, there it is. Okay.
Inside from Aumont, 2-0.
It does, however, beat Mr. Softy, so I'll settle for Mr. Peanut. Thank you very much.
There's his scoreboard. Zach Cozart's smiling face out there at left. Big hit total for the Reds today. (3-0) on Cozart. I'm gonna miss the weather here in spring training, that's for sure.
Yeah, this has been just an outstanding spring. No rain to speak of.
Well, you mentioned the control for Aumont. 4 pitches, all out of the zone to open. Another one of those days that all days should be modeled after.
Temperature a little bit lower than we've seen, but still beautiful. And Tucker Barnhart, who made just a wonder. Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
You're the very best, Stoney.
Wow.
There's a message for you.
Oh, whatever happened to that Mr. Peanut logo?
Bases loaded and 1-0 on Barnhart. The very best. There's a strike, clip the outside corner with a breaking ball.
Last season, not the best of years for Tucker Barnhart, but not bad when you consider the role he was asked to play. We've already seen the arm that he has, which is among the best in baseball and quite accurate.
That was an outstanding throw to second to cut down Saladino and finish off the Sox inning recently.
And switch hitting catchers are worth their weight in gold if they can indeed catch. So the bases full of Reds, as this has been not quite qualifying for a nightmarish 6th, but certainly a bit longer than Robin would have liked for his pitching staff.
I'm not talking.
Joe McEwing and the staff trying to get back out and wave some guys home. To first base, Ishikawa handles it nicely to retire the side. For the 3rd time today, the Reds have left the bases loaded. They have scored 6, though, and they lead by 3. Steve, I ask you, have you ever wanted the chance to enjoy a picnic in the outfield of U.S. Cellular Field, meet 2016 White Sox team members, and talk to White Sox alumni?
I have a burning desire to do that.
Well, then, now
When can
is
I?
your chance. Join us Saturday, June 25th. Picnic in the Park. All proceeds benefit White Sox charities. To purchase tickets, visit whitesoxcharities.org. Picnic at U.S. Cellular Field. Picnic at the Park
actually
Day.
very nice. And we got a new pitcher coming in the ball game. He's the 4th for the Reds.
You've been
Diane
dying to see him
Diaz,
all
yes.
spring.
Look at those numbers from last year. 2-1 ERA, 173. Well, the stuff is very good. And this Reds team, no stranger to rookies. 110 starts by Reds rookies last year, a modern-day club record. They made every start from July 28th through the end of the season, which is somewhat remarkable.
Diaz flags it down and brilliantly finishes off Ishikawa. Nice play.
Well, that's an outstanding play, and normally pitchers are going to let the third baseman make that play because it's a whole lot easier for him, but Diaz showing his athleticism. This is a pretty good effort. And the off-balance throw, but he gets it there in a lot of time and right on the money. Great effort.
So one down for Jerry Sands, who takes ball one. He's 0 for 2 today with a strikeout and a ground out to short.
Mercifully, Joey Votto has left the game because his 4 for 4 was somewhat troublesome in the middle of the order.
Sands underneath this 1-0 pitch. And Cozart staggering to make the catch for out number 2.
Jake Cave has checked in left field, and Jordan Pacheco taking over at first base.
Jake Cave was mystery number 30 a couple weeks ago. You remember hearing about that? There was a Cincinnati Reds player who didn't have a name on his jersey, and he wasn't listed on the roster. He was mystery man of the spring.
Well, that was Jake Cave.
Yeah.
They should have asked.
2 down for Deotter Navarro.
Old number 30 is how
30.
we usually go about it in the spring when nobody is on seemingly the additions list or the travel today list or the we just signed them list, which happens a lot in the spring.
Those are long names for those file folders, though. Those lists. I saw this yesterday. There was a it's the Romanian national soccer team, in order to promote math in the country, had math problems on their practice jerseys instead of their regular numbers. So number 6 said 2 + 2 + 2.
That I understand.
We should do that in spring training.
Anything after that I have trouble with. The Romanian national soccer team.
Could you imagine doing a game? You got 6 times 2 minus 4 divided by 2. That's 4, by the way.
I could, because you would have to announce Mr. 6 minus good old 6 minus 2. Yeah.
Well,
or you could go. You could have 28 plus 4 minus 2 and be Jake Cave.
you could.
Either way, it gets to Jake Cave.
And there you have it, folks. The Navarro sprays it foul. And another souvenir.
And Rick Hahn was with us earlier. If you missed it, he was talking about the catching situation, the fact that he completely changed it with Deanna Navarro and Alex Avila. And one of the things he talked about was it was essential that both of them caught very well to help the pitching staff. And both of these guys do, as well as providing some offense. Been a tough offensive spring for Alex Avila, although he came through with a big base hit in yesterday's game. But Navarro has always been able to hit. and both of them catch very well.
Popped it up. Cozart battling the sun. And a 1-2-3 inning for Dion Diaz. We mosey along to the home seventh, 6-3 Reds. Beautiful day for baseball once again. Todd Frazier making a friend here in Goodyear as the Sox trail the Reds. Oh, those look real good, don't they?
They certainly do. And for those of you who are not television lingo savvy, that was a rejoiner.
Not to be confused with a rejoinder.
Which means that we are right. We are coming back to show you Major League Baseball. Here it is.
On 1-0. Almont. Andrew, our graphics operator, has dug up those jerseys I was talking about. That's 46-2. Odds of that are 23-1. There's number 4. I can do that one. 2 times 3 in the background. That's number 6.
I can do the T.
Was that 2 times 3 squared? Chris Kampka asks. So you got to do the square first and then multiply it, right? So 18. Yeah, a little square in the back. Top left corner. How about that?
I will be strangely silent as we delve into the regions of math that have eluded me since 2nd grade.
That is ball 4 from Almont. No, those are better for you?
That's yes, that's much better.
What's 96 minus 86, Steve?
I believe that is the amount of money that you're going to have to give me to take you to the park most every day.
The dreaded Cy Young surcharge.
And we'll double it on the way home.
6th walk today for Reds hitters. And here is Billy Hamilton, who has had quite the afternoon with a double and a triple. What do you say we open the Twitter mailbag, Stoney?
Absolutely.
This comes from Scott Merkin.
The
Scott Merkin.
Man who celebrated a birthday not too long ago.
Yeah, by not coming to the ballpark.
Yeah, I know.
A couple days ago. Scott Merkin is rather feisty on Twitter today. The Sox beat writer for MLB.com, WhiteSox.com. He writes, you know, Jason Benetti all over me for not being in Scottsdale Monday on a day off, yet no recognition for being in attendance today. So as they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
So you are recognizing him?
Yeah, he's here.
He
I
looks
recognize him.
the same, albeit a bit older. But, you know, I would be remiss.
I don't want you to be remiss.
If I didn't delve into pregame cuisines. Only in that you are from Homewood Flossmoor, I believe, which is considered the Chicagoland area.
Yeah, in south suburbs.
I was aghast when I saw not the fact that you had both a hamburger and a hot dog before the game, which were the size of small elephants, but the fact that you had ketchup on your hot dog.
Ground ball, Omont. One, turn on a bounce. Yes, sir.
Pretty good play on both ends as the throw was high. Anderson able to make the play, and then the throw was low to first base, and Travis Ishikawa making a good pick. He goes up, touches the bag. Ishikawa digs it out of the dirt, and they get two. So how did ketchup on a hot dog come about? How were you not thrown out of Homewood Flossmoor for not eating a spicy style of mustard on your hot dog?
Well, generally, I mean, it's very difficult to get excommunicated from your hometown because of foodstuffs.
Even then, it was sad.
Thank you. I'm losing friends by the moment in Chicago because of your comments about my hot dog choices. I'm not a big relish guy. I don't really like onions. So ketchup spruces it up for me.
Okay. Onions and mustard, not near the same thing. By the way, in case you were inquiring, Hector Sanchez is indeed catching.
On the subject of hot dogs, I'm told by the Sox that there's a new menu item at the ballpark this year.
And we have really wonderful concessions. And what is it this year, pray tell?
Among many others, this is not the only new concession item at U.S. Cellular Field, but this is called the Bacon Cheddar Pretzel Dog. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
for
good.
Chicago? That sounds great.
Well, yes, assuming that there is mustard on it.
Mustard and bacon and cheese?
Anything on bacon works really well. I found that is one of the food groups.
Bacon itself.
Yes.
Where on the pyramid is that?
It's
roughly a cross section.
Boy, it's good.
No. Seventh walk today for Sox pitching.
I particularly like bacon on a stick, which is also something served at the ballpark, which is exceptional.
That bacon cheddar pretzel dog sounds pretty fantastic. There's also
tell
something
me about it.
Well, it's got bacon and cheddar, and it's on a pretzel bun.
Kind of self-explanatory, wasn't it?
A warm pretzel roll, I'm told.
Okay, there you go.
After we're done with that, we could put your head in the microwave.
Okay, so then what else do we have that I can choose from this year?
The new tater tachos, which are tater tots topped with nacho cheese and jalapenos. Sections 110 and 544, I'm told.
Okay.
Runners off, swing and a miss. Sanchez, it goes bounding into center. Stolen base for Cave. The Hooters Buffalo Chicken Sandwich is available in 3 different sauces.
I like the sauce, and I know this is not going to be served, but Burger King today is breaking out their angry sauce with their red bun, just in case. That's been a staple.
For your temperament?
That's been a staple for me this spring. For whatever reason, I have no idea.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
We gotta get you a bacon cheddar pretzel dog real quick.
Gotta get me back to Chicago.
Yes.
Where the food is exceptional. Some miscommunication, so Omont and Sanchez going to talk it over. With a runner at second base, new set of signs being employed.
I'm serious. I'm going to read this to you, okay? I'm seriously going to read this to you. Uh-oh, Jason Benetti eats ketchup on hot dogs. He is bad now on Twitter.
Boy, is that observant.
It's going to take me some time to get over this ketchup on hot dogs revelation, Jason Benetti. Great. In the air to left, Jerry Sands is parked, and that'll do it.
Just a present from Mr. Softy, by the way.
This is going really well. 6-3.
Sox fans, show your team pride with White Sox checking and an official White Sox MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/Sox to learn more. Wintrust, member FDIC. So you're taking a beating, are you, in the Twitter sphere?
This dude's got ketchup on his hot dogs. Why don't you tweet at him? Huh?
Well, let's see. Oh, Lord. There's another one.
I like a lot of things. All right. 6-3 Cincinnati. Courtney Hawkins 0 for 2. Fly out to right and a strikeout.
I can understand where Diaz would have some pretty good numbers last year. He's got good stuff. For the most part, when they do give you number 90, it's going to be very difficult for you to make the ball club. But Cincinnati's a team in transition. Got a few good older veteran players. I mean, excellent older players. And the farm system has got to start picking it up a touch. They're in a tough division. Pittsburgh is tough. I mean, last year he had 3 teams. The minimum was 97 wins between the Cardinals, Pittsburgh, and the Cubs. For Milwaukee and Cincinnati, it's going to be a while till they're built well enough to beat those other clubs. Those other 3 clubs are very good.
Those 3 teams again feel like they're going to be playoff teams once more this year. Two and 2 on Hawkins. Again, the Sox will have an off day here in Arizona. They will head to San Diego to play the Padres Friday and Saturday before that opening series in Oakland starting on Monday. You and Hawk will have the call of that series.
And then after the 4-game series, Hawk will come back and do opening game for the Sox against the Cleveland Indians. I'm sure he's going to be raring and ready to go after missing his first spring training in some 56-odd years.
I'm looking forward to seeing Hawk on opening day at the ballpark.
Well, I think the fans are probably feeling the same way. And I think it's probably been a little difficult not to come to spring training. That is something that's been a huge part of his life for a long time.
Pacheco at first base and one away. Can I clear something up for a moment?
Yeah, I'd be talking about that rash you have, but you told me not to mention that. But go ahead.
You're really good at secrets. I do also eat ketchup, eat mustard on my hot dogs too. Can I clear that up? Because I'm being run out of town in Chicago.
You're taking a beating here, aren't you?
Oh, it's an atrocity.
Well,
things like I enjoyed your play-by-play until this hot dog revelation.
I did, right.
Things like that.
It was a really great 10-game career.
Yeah,
nice talking to you, Pally.
It's great. Would you like this Comcast Sportsnet pullover that I seem to have no use for anymore? It's been a real pleasure. Anderson with a foul ball.
I think everybody to a man who's associated with not only the White Sox, but every team down here is exceptionally ready for the season to start. Hitters get there first. Pitchers come along a bit as far as when they're ready to go. But right now, everybody is ready to go. The drama, however, is for the last spot or two on just about everybody's 25-man roster.
In the air to right by Anderson, and Duran never really got a good look at it. The hope for Tim Anderson is maybe even next year, depending on timetable, he'll be battling for one of those spots with the big league club.
Well, you know, I've talked to a lot of scouts about Anderson, and they, to a man, say the same thing. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when he gets to the major leagues. And I think Rick Hahn has talked about it a number of times as far as he needs some more at-bats, smooth out a few portions of his game, but the talent is there. I mean, you're a first-round draft pick. You know you've got a whole lot of talent. And I think Anderson has shown that he is that guy. It's just that you've got two established shortstops. One has established himself as a guy who can play any position. The other guy has established himself over a wonderful career in the major leagues. That was Jimmy Rollins, who's going to get the starting spot. But Anderson's going to be there.
Well, and Tim Anderson has said time and again this spring that he's basically just followed Jimmy Rollins around the spring training complex and asked him questions whenever they've come up. So what he's gained in volume this spring training, you would imagine, would play out on the field at some point, too.
I think it really helped a lot of the Sox youngsters to have players the caliber of Frazier and Rollins.
On a line to left. And Cave is there for out number 2. That's 7 in a row retired by Reds pitching.
And the bullpen. Up and going, it's Josh Wall. Anderson hit that ball awfully hard, but right at Peraza. Right at Cave. Would have been at Peraza, but he didn't hit it in the dugout.
Rare that the player on the bench has a glove still on.
A lot of guys like to be ready, though.
That is really ready. Shuck fouls it off of Barnhart. 0-2. J.B. Shuck singled and scored in the 6th. Fly out to right and a pop out to short for him today as well.
Last year, you look at some of those numbers, and at first, they don't jump out at you. But 340 on base percentage for a guy that didn't get regular at-bats is pretty good. And those at-bats, many of them coming against the best at the back end of everybody's bullpen.
Pop up to second, and that'll do it for the Sox. If only J.B. Shuck would have put a little more mustard on that one. Premium is everything you've come to expect and more. New low price for 2016. You can watch every out-of-market game of all 30 teams live in true HD on over 400 supported devices. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. One of our favorite apps here in the booth.
It is a very informative app. Anything you want to know about baseball. And Josh Wall comes in. Not having the most successful of springs, but it's been in limited action. And he'll pick up an inning here. You were surprised that I knew about the dancing hot dog emoji. Why would you be surprised?
Stats don't lie, Stoney.
Well, that's true. But
your stats, technology-wise, are not good. So
I am a big fan and often use emojis, which was explained to me that nobody over the age of 18 should use them. They apparently have a language all of their own, which I am not conversant in.
Yeah, it's hieroglyphics for our century. Right? It's like pictures on the cave wall.
For you millennials?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or post-millennials, such as yourself.
I'll have to, well, post. I'll have to check that out then.
Wall, a little bit high. 2-0. That young person knows exactly what an emoji is, I'm sure.
She does indeed.
That's Facebook, I think. Like. Big rip by Phillips, who's got 3 hits so far today. Josh Wall, the right-hander out of Louisiana, who's played for both the Angels and the Dodgers in the big leagues.
Kind of impressed that Phillips has gone the distance. You don't see that all that often.
Center field, J.B. Shuck is right there, 1 down. Especially at the end of spring training.
No. And Phillips has made a fine catch, by the way, to end the last inning. That was just an outstanding play. With his back to the infield, he was able to take a base hit away from J.B. Shuck.
So Ramon Cabrera to pinch hit for Suarez, who reached 3 times and drove in a run. Strike 1 from Wall. So as we move toward the end of spring training here with the Sox en route to California after this game with an off day tomorrow, what are you looking for the first couple series of the season? What does a positive first few series of a baseball season look like to you other than wins? I mean, what kind of indicators are you seeing?
Well, I want to see the really important parts where the team made strides in spring training. I want to see them carried over into the season. So in this case, the Sox #1 in the major leagues in home runs. Odds are overwhelming they won't be #1 this year in the major leagues, but you want to see the power numbers stay close to where they are now. You'd love to see that bullpen doing what they did most of this spring, and that is they threw strikes, they got everybody out. Most of the guys we're talking about, of course, are the guys that are going to head north with the team, and looks like Robin's got some pretty good options down there and some guys with experience, and they're still young enough to be able to be used quite a bit. And early in the season, you see that happen, especially with the absence of off days. But it's essential this year more than any other year because of the schedule that this team get off to a quick start. And we say that for a number of different reasons. Number one, very few off days. Number two, the division seems to be, if not equal, pretty well bunched as far as talent is concerned with all of the clubs. And someone is going to jump out there and get a really strong start. It could be very difficult with a lot of teams very similar to one another to be able to make that up if you do get behind, well behind early. So that's why it's essential for the Sox to get off to a great start. And to a man, they feel that they're fully capable of doing that. And we'll do that this year. I think there's a great attitude with the ball club. The clubhouse chemistry is good. Of course, that being said, and we've talked about this a number of times, you very rarely will ever see good chemistry on a losing team, and you just don't see bad chemistry too often on a winning team. But Sox have started off with a very good clubhouse to start this season.
Strike two. And 2 balls and 2 strikes on Schebler. Well, we've talked about Todd Frazier and his addition in the clubhouse, but Jimmy Rollins is part of that as well. That's an inside corner, strike 3. And so we'll head to the top of the 9th and set you up for Sox regular season play, which is dawning in just a couple of days. Benetti, Steve Stone with you, and 10 games in already, spring training for us. I just have to say thanks to everybody in Chicago for welcoming me so warmly. I'm looking forward to seeing you and Hawk work in Oakland, and then that first game as well with the Cleveland Indians. And thanks for an enjoyable spring.
It has been a great spring, and the crew, to a man and woman, did just a great job, made our job a whole lot easier than it would be. I mean, we got all the substitutions, and there were a lot of substitutions. So it's been a great spring. There's been a lot of positives. Obviously, working with you has been terrific. I think these 10 games will really help us going in. Hawk will take over the road games and assorted home games every now and then, but it's been terrific.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Even though you blew up my hot dog situation, I still am looking forward to working with you for a grand season and years to come.
Just think about the culinary experiences that await you living in downtown Chicago.
The best food city in America,
Yeah, there's no
for
doubt,
my money.
There's no doubt about that. And we will be in walking distance of a whole lot of wonderful restaurants. And assuming that you take me out all the time, we'll hit most of them.
Well, I've got a bacon cheddar pretzel dog for you on opening day. My treat.
And by the way, as we look at Evan Mitchell and his numbers at Daytona, the Bertucci boys are going to be welcoming you with open arms at home. Bobby is going to bring over assorted things. I talked to him about the things you like to eat, and he's going to get you mussels and clams every day.
With ketchup, please.
Now, the Bertucci boys make some great food, and they will be very much in attendance in our booth.
Bouncing ball to third. And Saladino retired in his final at bat in Arizona, most likely. Nice play by Trahan. We were talking about going into the season and having a positive start to the year. What do you think of this team in terms of clubhouse and how it all meshes?
I think they've done a terrific job coming from a number of different places and coming off a year last year that, well, quite frankly, just about everyone was very disappointed in the results and disappointed in how the team got to where they got, which was up the track, as they say. But I think this year, the additions that Rick Hahn made have come together, meshed nicely. You brought in guys who have terrific clubhouse presence. And, you know, with Todd Frazier being the kind of guy he is, the intensity of Brett Lawrie, the two catchers who are both take-charge guys, which is what you really love in your catcher with Navarro and Avila. I think it's going to be a surprising team. Surprising in that there's a lot of people that picked this team to finish 4th or 5th in the division and to win 80-81 games. I think it's going to be considerably better than that. There's a man who is charged with putting it all together. I think what we've seen from Robin this spring, and hopefully it goes into the season, is he's used a lot of movement. We've seen a lot of very successful hit and runs.
And as there's strike 3 for out number 2 on DeMichael, so 2 down. It seems like thematically, if there's one theme to the position players on this roster, it's guys who can play multiple positions, which gives Robin Ventura a lot more dexterity in choices.
Well, if you have that, then you can afford to keep one more pitcher, and that's probably going to be the case. There's a lot of teams thinking about carrying 13 pitchers from the get-go. Other teams that will add a pitcher. In the case of the Sox, they don't need it early. They probably will need it in the not-too-distant future.
Meaning after that off day.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets a little cumbersome as far as the amount of consecutive games, although you can't really consider playing 17 consecutive because of rainouts.
One miss somewhere to Garcia. 2-0. You know, I can't wait to see the new scoreboard, by the way.
It's going to be very nice. It's going to be a substantial upgrade. And I think our fans will really appreciate it because they'll be able to see a lot of things on the scoreboard that they haven't been able to see. Certainly it's going to be a great addition to the ballpark.
there for strike one. Ball 4 for Garcia, so it looks as though he'll finish spring 18 out of 54, which is exactly 1 out of every 3. So a 333 spring, 4 walks, 9 strikeouts for Avi Garcia.
And he drove in 17 runs, which is a good sign.
We will see if this guy makes the opening day roster. Travis Ishikawa, ostensibly with Jerry Sands in that race for the roster spot at the end of the bench. Ishikawa today 0 for 3, Sands 0 for 3, but you wouldn't imagine one more game is the deciding factor. You'd imagine the Sox have a pretty good idea of where they want to go at this point in the spring, wouldn't you?
Well, I think, Rick wasn't letting the cat out of the bag. What he was talking about is you pick the player who best suits the personnel on your club. And you can make a case for both of these guys. They both had very good springs.
Garcia takes second.
I really love indifference.
I'm
in this
apathetic
case,
toward it.
Defensive indifference. Yes, I know that people who said that, well, yeah, apathy is not that bad a thing.
Second base, Brandon Phillips. Nice pick to finish off the Sox tour in Arizona. 6-3 your final score. Why don't we play him for real? Starting in a couple days.
I believe that everybody's going to tell you the same thing. It's time to get the season on with. This, the final game of what was a very successful spring. We talked about it before. The first winning spring training since 2004. So have a safe trip back to Chicago. We will follow the ball club on to Oakland, and hopefully it'll be a very successful trip home.
I'll be watching you and Hawk. Enjoy it. Look forward to it. For our director, Jim Angio, our producer, Michelle Godwin, our associate producer, Chris Kamka, our tech manager, Mark Harper, our stats man, Bill Brophy, and for the executive producer, Jim Corno Jr. For Steve Stone, Jason Benetti saying so long from Arizona for our entire crew. You've been watching Chicago White Sox baseball on Comcast Sportsnet.